So good evening to everybody over in Australia. Good morning to anyone who's joining us from my neck of the woods over in England or Europe. We are just getting ready for the Trackstars Touring Cars second round of the season, the Styrian Sprint here at the Red Bull Ring. I'm going to do my normal tradition. I'm going to take you guys out on a lap of this circuit, and as you can see, torrential rain has hit the Styrian countryside, and the Red Bull Ring is going to be something of a skating rink for these drivers in these 750 brake horsepower cars. So we are going to see some wrestling with the vehicles, and I don't think we're going to see the quickest guide lap that I've ever published on this channel, but nonetheless, let's take you on a lap. A lot of these drivers will be running traction control. I don't believe in any of that, so I'm voyaging into this one unassisted. This is going to be one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. So easy to brake too late in these conditions and end up on the gravel. You can already see plenty of evidence of that gravel trap being in use. Gonna be gentle on the power all the way around that curve. Now, again, just let the car put on the power when it's comfortable, catch a slide if needed. There. Again, so careful on the power here. Twitch is inevitable. Into the final corner. Careful about the curbs on the outside. Let's go for a quote-unquote hot lap, shall we, as well? See where we stack up against the actual drivers of Trackstars. Well, nowhere particularly with that line through turn one. Use that Austrian flag to our advantage. Bounce off the limiter as the car struggles for grip. This is a difficult braking zone to sight at the best of times. In these conditions it's even harder. I'm not troubling any apexes on this lap, as you can see. Immense challenge for the drivers of Trackstars. An immense challenge for me as well. But of course, I will not be racing. One last corner. And we will hop back into the commentary box. So there we go. So then we get ready for racing here in the Trackstars Touring Car Series, and the second round of the season, the Styrian sprint here. And 3 12-lap encounters in these wet conditions for the drivers of Trackstars. Interested to see how the Honda drivers do this weekend, including Deadpool, who we currently see on screen in the second of the It's Racing Esports Honda NSXs. Of course, the NSX, the only mid-engined car on the circuit, can be a little treacherous in these conditions, although we did see just now in the Trackstars 2, the Touring Cars 2 series, that the NSX was worthy of a battle out at the front. We saw a little Blacko for Robosport up against Diswood, and it was very interesting racing. Of course, while It's Racing Esports had a glittering start to the year, these guys, the Mashed Spuds in the Lexus, they were still the top Lexus team, but already both drivers well over 30 points down on championship leader It's Racing heading into this round, and we'll be looking to do better this time around. Who is everybody supporting here today? Let me know on the stream chat if you are that way inclined. It is Diswood who is out on circuit at the moment, actually. Again in the NSX. He was racing for SLM earlier on in the TS2 series. That's not the case here, though. He's replacing Papa instead in the NSX. Of course, Papa, one of the CP Motorsports drivers, so CP Motorsports getting the services of Diswood, which I think is quite a star signing, really, for the series. Or for the team, I should say. So then we should have qualifying underway in just a few moments for this Styrian sprint event. You see there are a couple of the NSXs running in tandem, the CP Motorsports and its racing teams. Deadpool, currently the fastest driver that set a time in practice, though of course that doesn't necessarily indicate the form in qualifying. It's certainly a good start. See there just how careful he is on the throttle, barely getting into the red in the first couple of gears. So imperative that you control the throttle. Am I still entered into the race? I'm not. That's good. I just wanted to check. Another man whom we can expect to do good things is Little Blacko, who I believe is deputising for Farrell PS today. Farrell unable to make it, so the RoboSport racing team, with the depth of their talent roster, have simply called up Little Blacko. And he will now take part instead. Brandosa, another man we can expect to do well here. Looks like he's got some good pace in these conditions. There, along with EBM teammate there, Chiami. car, Deadpool, coming around for another lap, but not a particularly special time by the looks of it. It's so good to see these cars in this spec at over 750 or just approaching 750 brake horsepower, running in these conditions. Seriously sideways coming out of some of these corners, scrabbling for traction. Jaxie in the 11 car heads into the pits. Qualifier begins now. It's racing. Our championship leader, of course, who presses the button, the big red button. Him out onto the circuit. His first one out of pit lane. It's racing NSX, a car we were meant to see last year, a car that's finally made it out onto the circuit for this season. It seems the NSX has finally come into its own. It's leading the championship in the hands of this man and his team at the moment. It is both of the It's Racing NSXs that lead the way. Oh, but there goes It's Racing on the formation, or on the outlap, I should say. Showing just how difficult these conditions are going to be for everybody. We spoke a little bit about the commentator's curse at the end of the TS2 broadcast, and, well, there's also sometimes the curse of being followed by the camera, and I think that's what happened to It's Racing there. That leaves Deadpool to forge the path for everyone else then. The British driver leading the pack, and Diswood 1 behind him, so the Hondas are going to be the ones breaking the ground on the first flying lap. The Cartel Equipment Hire backed It's Racing esports cars. always immaculately turned out. Out to the final turn now. Goes Deadpool. Early onto the brakes for this turn 2. One of the trickiest braking zones anywhere, anyway, much less in these wet conditions. Struggles for traction out of the turn, but gets the car kicked out of the corner. So careful here to not overshoot the apex or the tarmac as a whole. A little bit sideways under the Gran Turismo bridge. Feathering the throttle through the what's normally an absolutely insignificant right-hand kink. It becomes a very difficult corner. That is always a difficult corner, the one we've just gone through. Final turn. Be careful not to use too much of either curb. Four-wheel drifting through the corner there. It's more like aquaplaning in reality. At 38.2 for Deadpool, a 37.4 for Diswood. That's very impressive. Is there anyone else going to top that on the first time of asking? Xiami does not. What's Little Blacko got in store? It's a 38.7. Spud across the line for the first time, also in the 38s. Is there anyone who can get into the 37s? Yes, Brandosa on a 37.876. It's Racing goes across the line for 4th place early on a 38.237, so he's recovered from his little spin there. And Puntz goes second on a 37.8, but Diswood's pace really commanding. Of course, he has just raced in the TS2 category, so he will have some very fresh track knowledge to utilise at this stage. Out wide goes Jaxie. Looks like it had been quite a good lap up to that point, but he's lost some time there discovering the paint, and he almost discovers the wall across the line there. 142.207. The pit lane esports car, he's taking some interesting lines. Chef Toddy in the number 12. Another new driver to the main Trackstars ranks. He's replacing, or deputising I should say, at the Shaden team today. 37.575 for Deadpool, meanwhile, puts him up the order some. Little Blacko improves again, a 38.525. Now Blacko is running very nicely indeed in that 14 car here, and has been doing wonderfully in the TS2 series. 5 wins on the trot as of the end of this evening's TS2 proceedings. Diswood has come to a halt there. Not the best place to do it. Really, you shouldn't park up at all because the yellow flags are displayed. Oh, it's racing very sideways there, and he's sideways and pushing himself to the limit. A 37.341 from It's Racing last time by puts him on provisional pole position with just under 4 minutes left to run. Impressive stuff from It's.
this lap is going to be an improvement. He's certainly trying. The wiggle is very much on. Chiami with a new time, a 38.9, a 38.1 for Blacko. Still keeps him in 6th place. We've had a few drivers under that 37 barrier now. It's racing again, wiggling that car. Only a 38.0 for his efforts on this occasion. 37.5 meanwhile for Punts puts him back up to 3rd place, puts him just under 0.2 off pole. So Punts, who had, I think it's fair to say, an average race last time, has good form in quali at the moment. Let's see what kind of split Deadpool offers up this time. We'll head towards the 2nd sector split now. It says he's 0.2 up. He may well be on the verge of taking the front row, if that's accurate. Wiggles the car out of the corner again. A bit of on-power snaking to be expected in these wet conditions. Cleanly through the final corner. That looked very smooth indeed. Is it enough for pole position? Crosses the line now. Not quite. A 37.953. Lost a lot of time there in the last sector, if the splits are to be believed. The number 1 car, N-Spud P666, our defending champion, following its racing at the moment. It's racing again, taking the wild approach to cornering in the NSX. Has he held up Spud at all there? I don't think he has, and Spud's not on a great lap anyway. And look at that absolute sideways coming out of the corner. Is he going to get a good run or a good lap before the end of the session? Well, he's only got one more lap to try and do it. He has the man who's currently fastest to follow. In fact, no, Diswood has just gone top off camera. A 37.262 puts Diswood to the top of the order. It was Diswood's birthday yesterday. Can he celebrate with glory in the Trackstars Touring Cars Series one day late? Lots of snaking for Spud. Interested to know whether Spud is running traction control. Looking at it, I don't think he is, so maybe that explains it. Brave man. Lots of sideways there. He's done very well to keep that on the circuit at all. Was one of the hairiest moments we've seen in the session. I don't think that's conducive to a faster lap time, but look at Deadpool's time. A 36.590 across the line for Deadpool. That is absolutely phenomenal driving. Is anyone going to come within anything of that time? I can't see the Brit being beaten on that one. Let's see what his teammate has to say. Oh, and it's swapped around on N-Spud at the final turn. Looks like this could end up being another challenging weekend for the Lexus drivers. Punt's almost falling foul to the same error. Does he get a quicker lap time out of his efforts? A 37.472 is a little bit quicker, but still only good enough for 4th position. Lurox 22 was just coming across the line there. Not a faster lap. Looks like pretty much everyone who's going to affect the front of the order has already come in. Let's see, or already set a time, I should say. Let's see what Jaxie's doing. He's not broken into the 130s yet. His fastest time of 142.207, so it looks like he's struggling with the wet conditions. See there, he's very heavy on the throttle, traction control having to work quite a lot. Time across the line is a 140.8, good enough for 12th place only. So there we go, all 14 cars have set a time. There's RoboSport just testing the safety car, which of course has four-wheel drive, so if the safety car does make itself known out on circuit today, I think it might end up being just as quick as anything else we've got. So there we go. First qualifying, or the qualifying I should say, in the bag. We now have 3 races of 12 laps to bring you live on the Trackstars YouTube channel today. About to go green for the first race of the day. It's Deadpool in the lead. The inside of the front row is with Diswood. However, who gets the better launch? The two Hondas look like they got away a bit more cleanly than anyone else, and Diswood it is who fires off into the lead. Meanwhile, it's racing immediately into the barriers. He's had a shocking start. Diswood it is who leads then. Deadpool in second place. A few cars off further back. There's Puntz up to third. Blacko in fourth place and Spud in fifth. But it's Diswood who leads them for CP Motorsports, but he's wide. Pole sitter Deadpool on the inside. We saw how good he is in the qualifying. Can he translate that into race success? Didn't get off the line well, but is still right there with Diswood. Under the Rouch Bridge. Again on the power ever so gradually. This long right-hand bend. Diswood there. Just on the rumble strips, the painted rumble strips, which can catch you out, and he almost got caught out there. Wood from Deadpool, from Puntz, from Blacko are top 4. Spud is there in 5th place. Diswood holds the lead on lap number 1. Of course, as we were saying, he's just been out there in the TS2s, as has little Blacko. So some recent track experience may come in handy for these guys. Wood there struggling for traction out of the corner. I think that's going to be enough for a run for Deadpool. They're side by side as they head down towards the second braking zone of the lap. Wood has the inside though. Puntz is right there with them. It's Honda, from Lexus, from Nissan then at the top of the order, and the Hondas are the cars to beat at the moment. Deadpool looking to the inside, not able to find a way through there. Puntz is firmly in the vicinity of this lead battle now, it's safe to say. The Mash Spuds racing driver pressing on. Little Blacko in 4th place, Spud in 5th, struggling for traction. Where is our current championship leader? It's Racing, he's there in 11th place. He's way down the order after that hiccup off the start line. And that Honda is pulling every shape you've ever seen. The power, I don't know whether or not it's running traction control at all. Looks like he's not. No, he's abstaining, so good on him. But down to 11th place is not what he would have wanted. We'll see how his race progresses. Let's go back to the front of the pack. Deadpool once again looks like he's getting the better run off of the first corner in the sister It's Racing Esports Honda. Under braking, just not close enough. Puntz in 3rd, Blacko in 4th, and Spud in 5th. The top 5 pulling away from the rest of the pack. We've got someone in the pits. In fact, no, that's the Robbo Sports driven safety car, of course. I should remember that that's there. Punts is definitely closing in on Deadpool, although he's just gone a little bit wide and got a little bit hairy through that corner. Chef Toad is a little way off the pack now, down in 14th place, so it looks like he's struggling, and according to my screen, he's got all sorts of damage as well. Whether or not that could just be, we've had that before, where it shows damage where it isn't actually there, and his car looks like it's going quick enough, so I think that could be false. It is Diswood who leads then. From Deadpool, Punts and Little Blacko. These drivers doing a sterling job just in keeping the car on the circuit, really. Fabulous driving. So much concentration needed to remember your wet weather braking points. They arrive at Remus once again, and Deadpool just tags the back of Diswood, but it shouldn't harm either of them. On the approach to Schlossgold. Third braking zone of the lap, not the third corner, of course, because that kink after turn 1 on the approach to turn 2, well, an approach to the second braking zone, is actually referred to as turn 2. Of course, the Red Bull Ring, familiar with these kind of cars, a staple of the DTM calendar. And these Super GT Class 1 cars, very similar in spec to what has been running in DTM up until this season, of course. They're switching to GT3s in that category, but I don't think there's any fear of that in the track stars for the time being. Tips it into the corner, does Diswood. Deadpool follows him. Punts, Blacko, and Spud are top 5. It's Racing is up to 8th place further back. I would go and check in with our championship leader coming into this race. However, I get the feeling as soon as I do that, we may see some action here at the front. Deadpool hounding the back of Diswood at the front of the pack. Oh, very late on the throttle, very hard on the throttle there from Diswood. Imagine the tyres there feeling that one. Deadpool, well, he's a bit earlier onto the brakes than Diswood. Both of them get it stopped for the corner. Punts, meanwhile, is under pressure from Little Blacko in the battle for third place, and simply sideways coming around the corner as well. Is Blacko going to be able to make it through into third place here? Looks like he's going for the move up the inside. Was there contact between them? I think there may have been. And Punts, well, he's down to 5th place in the 47 car, just getting squirrely. He's going to keep his head in the game here and not push it too hard. Spud would have seen that. I'm sure he'll have something to say about that if there was contact. I think there was. Little Blacko, meanwhile, has made it up to 3rd place for the time being. Stewards, of course, are here in Track Stars, so during the week the results may change for Blacko if he's deemed to be at fault. Spud in 4th place. Can he make it up onto the podium for what I believe would be the first time this season? Rox 22 is up to 8th. It's Racing has dropped down to P10, so we said he'd got back up to 8th place. But that was evidently short-lived. As just behind Huzo 16 in the second of the CP Motorsports Hondas. Hondas 1, 2, 9 and 10 at the moment. Durox 22 not quite having the competitive outing that he had last time at Dragon Trails, so not as confident in the Robosport Racing Nissan here today by the looks of it. There's Brandosa in 6th place. And that's Spud just ahead of him in 5th, so Spud has had a moment there. Is Spud just coming back from a trip to the gravel? That's certainly how it looks to me. Punts then back up to 4th place, courtesy of what looks to have been a mistake for Spud. And that leaves little Blacko rather on his own island. But can he pull that GTR back up into the lead battle? The two Hondas currently fairly far removed from the rest of the pack. Over a second between them now. It is Dis Wood who looks to be in the best form of all at this stage. CP Motorsports will be very happy with the driver they've brought in here. Of course, he's got 3 races to complete today, so lots more racing to do, but this first race is going brilliantly well so far. Fastest lap of the race is currently with punts of 37.143 for the Mashed Spuds Racing Lexus. Although just going purple there is Dis Wood, so he looks like he's really trying to stamp his authority on this race. He got out onto the paint there, though. And as he came back onto the tarmac, there was still some air under the car's tyres as he put the throttle down, and he almost came to blows with a barrier. Thankfully, he kept it on the straight and narrow. Continues to lead this race, but you can see how much time he lost there. He lost almost 0.6 of a second on Deadpool there, who had a great final sector. Is Deadpool back within slipstream range? Not quite. But he did get a better run out of this first turn. So many tricky little 90-degree plus corners here at the Red Bull Ring in its current configuration. Oh, Dis Wood again getting sideways under traction. Of course, when the Auschwitz Ring became the A1 ring in the 90s, a lot of the corners were squared off. And that was primarily, of course, for safety and overtaking. I'm not sure that any of these drivers would thank the powers that be for doing that to this circuit in these conditions, because these corners are so tricky to put the power down in these wet conditions. 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second between the top two. Deadpool's had another great lap here. I think he might be on for fastest lap of the race. A few of the drivers further back have been in the pit lane a couple of times by the looks of it with damage. Of course, pit stops are now longer in this game as well. If you haven't played since the last update, you may not know this, but the pit stops have increased in time significantly. Decreasing in time, meanwhile, is Deadpool's race pace, 36.925, the fastest lap of the race so far. And Slapperman rejoins the race a lap down now in 15th spot, but he will press on to see the finish. Squirrely under braking there from Deadpool, who didn't have the best of runs through turn 1. I think maybe just appearing in the eye line was the bat marker, and that may have just distracted him on the entry into turn 1. Blacko in third place, set his fastest lap so far last time by a 37.526 for Little Blacko. Punts, meanwhile, in fourth place. Braking on the curb, very gutsy, can often go badly. Brandosa, meanwhile, pressuring end Spud. So Spud, we're talking about him potentially getting a podium. He's going to do well to keep it in the top 5. He's under pressure from the Elite Breaker Mechanical backed GTR. Of course, Elite Breaker Mechanical also backing the entire Trackstars organisation, and we thank them for their support to all of our racing endeavours here on Gran Turismo. Xiaomi and Lurox running 7th and 8th place. It's Racing there in 9th. Out of the final turn he goes, or rather out of the, not even close to the final turn. I don't know why that word came out of my mouth. He's into 9th place though, so back into the top 10, but regardless of what happens from here, I don't think he's going to be happy with his result. Dano 8 in the Domino's Nissan, that's another driver who was just in TS2. Chef Toad struggling a little bit in 13th. He is now a lap down as well. Diswood looks like he's responding to the pace from Deadpool here. Oh, but getting again sideways into the out of the corner there. We see a lot of scurrying and sliding from these Hondas. And the margin of error between being spectacular and being in the gravel is minimal indeed. About to start the penultimate lap of the race then, and Diswood has been in control pretty unanimously since getting the better launch from second on the grid. But Deadpool has been stalking him every metre of the race to this point. Gap's never been more than 2 seconds. Looks like Deadpool could get a good run off this corner and be well within slip. In fact, Diswood actually gets a better run out of turn 1, which we haven't seen him do too much so far in the race. And sure enough, he's gone a 10th purple in that first sector, so he really hooked up turn 1 for the first time. Traditionally, it's been a part of the circuit where Deadpool has been smoother and quicker. But Diswood learning all the time, even now into what will be his 4th race of the day here at the Red Bull Ring after competing in TS2. Oh, look at that sideways action from Diswood. Diswood a lot more confident on the curbs by the looks of it. Puntz, meanwhile, wants his podium back from Little Blacko. It looked as though there was contact between the two of them that set Puntz into the gravel momentarily. And I think Puntz wants his place back. A little bit wide there from Blacko around the penultimate corner. Will Robbo Sport Racing be on the podium with Little Blacko, or will the Mash Spuds achieve it in the Lexus? Spud looks like he's just about going to hold on to 5th place over Brandosa as long as things continue to fall in his favour. Let's refocus on this lead battle. It's still Diswood at the front of the pack. He's got a more comfortable advantage than he did this time 1 lap ago. Doesn't strike me as a driver who's in the business of counting his chickens before they hatch. He's going to be firmly focused on just keeping the car on the road. Well beyond the last corner. Won't be considering himself the victor until he crosses the line. Almost gets a wheel on the grass there, tipping it into the left-hander. It's been a valiant effort from Deadpool, but our pole sitter couldn't convert it into a win. In our first race of the day here, the first of 3 for the Styrian Sprint, it is CP Motorsports Super Sub Diswood who takes the win. Deadpool takes second place. Little Blacko will cross the line for third. Huntz is next in fourth place. EBM Brandosa, though, has taken fifth. So I think there was an error maybe for Spud on the final lap. Yes, a 140 would very much indicate that. So N-Spud down to 6th place. Xiaomi in 7th ahead of Lurox. It's Racing only taking 9th spot after a strong qualifying. He'll lament that result. Huzo across the line for 10th ahead of Dano. And Jaxi will be the last one across the line on the lead lap in P12. Well, we saw numerous examples in that race of what the wet weather can do to you. Well, great racing from everyone involved there, but it's victory in the first race for the CP Motorsports Super Sub Diswood. Congratulations to him on a great result. What great racing that was. So we await race 2 now. It's going to be very intriguing to see how things evolve in this second race. We've got 5 minutes until race 2, apparently. So if you're tuning in this evening, do let us know. Always good to know who's watching. Always good to know whom you're supporting as well. There we go. Grid based on previous race results. So It's Racing is going to have to do a lot of work from 9th place. PLE Racing, Pit Lane Esports getting the backing of Jaxi. No partisan there. RoboSport there with a predictable pick as well, supporting his RoboSports Racing drivers. Has been a little less active so far in the safety car, it must be said, so maybe time for a coffee this morning, Robbo, or this evening, where you couldn't previously. Drivers getting a little bit of extra practice in. Spud there doing a bit of Tokyo drifting. Oh, just struggling under power. We saw a lot of that in the race from several drivers. Spud, I think, trying desperately to dial out any of the errors from the previous race before this next encounter. It wasn't the kind of showing that Spud would be happy with in that second race. Of course, he is here defending a title. Deadpool. Second place last time out in that first race. We'll see how he does in R2. Those of you who are tuned in, how's the audio today? Has the snap, crackle and pop fixed itself? Because every wire has now been replaced and I'm hoping that I solved it. It certainly sounded like it earlier. The final begins. And there goes Deadpool with a little bit of a spin. 12 laps again then for the drivers, and yet more soggy conditions. So last time it was the inside of the front row that got the better start. It was Diswood, of course, on the inside of the front row. Deadpool and Diswood have switched this time around. Let's see who gets the better start. It looks as though it was Diswood again who got the best start. Punches through into second place as well. Deadpool has rather been swallowed up here. He tries to turn in, has to be careful at the front of Spud. Blacko's been touched, so has Deadpool. Contact galore. And wow, Deadpool has dropped himself down to 13th. I think Lurox may have had some issues there as well. He's all the way down to the back of the pack. So two front runners are now going to be carving their way through the order. Cars 22 and 28 respectively will be working from the back, but it's Diswood at the front of the order. Punts in second place in the Mashed Spuds Lexus. Little Blacko and N-Spud behind them. Bushiami in P5. Well, drama at the first turn then. I think Deadpool just tried to turn in on the front of Spud's car, and I think the resulting contact may have taken the RoboSport Nissan of Lurox as well. No dramas for Diswood, who's leading once again on the first lap. And of course, his closest challenger from the previous race is not there. So the form book would suggest Diswood is in the prime position here. But we know that form book doesn't always give off a true impression. Blacko, meanwhile, in third position. Spud in fourth. Shiami, Huso and Brandosa, 5th, 6th and 7th place. Oh, Shiami there runs wide, however. Just be very careful getting back onto the circuit over that yellow sausage curb. Dano 8 followed him, so did Jaxie. Chef Toddy has moved up the order well there into 10th place and is keeping it on the track as well, so better form than he had last time. Let's see if he can keep this up. Slapper's mate in 11th, and It's Racing down in 12th place with a 2:11 first lap. He's clearly not had a good time. He's got some damage on his car on my screen. Deadpool and Lurox head back out onto the circuit. Both of them needed some repairs. And look at what repairs do to you these days in Gran Turismo Sport. Those longer pit stops causing all sorts of trouble, and so does the traction or lack thereof on the NSX. No damage for Deadpool by the looks of it, but certainly further dented pride. The It's Racing Esports Hondas not on song here in this second race, but it is a Honda leading the CP Motorsports car of Diswood. .37.232 puts the CP Motorsports driver, who of course regularly races under the SLM banner, puts him well up the field, well up the order. All of the dramas conspiring against everyone who looked likely to challenge Diswood. Of course, Diswood and Blacko had some great battles just earlier on in the TS2 race. So we could see little Blacko challenge yet. Who's up into 5th place? That's Huso in the other CP Motorsports NSX. So that's quite good to see. Huso in the other Honda has been struggling a little bit so far in these conditions, but he's keeping it on track. He's now into the top 5. We know Huso can be a very quick driver. Diswood still setting the pace at the front then, a 10th purple. We saw that really only towards the very end of the first race did Diswood really figure out the traction out of the first corner. So we can expect him to get quicker and quicker. He's seemingly learning with every passing lap, which all good drivers do. We've seen multiple times just how good Diswood is in various categories within Trackstars. CP Motorsports really pulling quite the last minute signing in having him replace Papa for this race. Good evening to Vision Video and Gaming. Great to see the drivers from other series tuning in, keeping an eye on their competition and others in the Trackstars Touring Cars series. A little bit tasty out of that final corner from Kuntz. Moment, Diswood looks like he's just steadily driving away from the Lexus. Although he didn't get a good run at all out of the first turn there. I thought he looked a bit squirrely, and he was. Blacko, meanwhile, in 3rd place. It's really everyone on their own island in the top 5. Let's go further back down the order. Chiami and Jaxi 7th and 8th. Dano in 9th. Again, great driving from Todd here to just keep it on circuit, and is currently running in 10th place. Efforts to improve his consistency seemingly paying off. Slapper's mate for Pit Lane Esports in 11th. Lurox is in the pit lane again, according to the screens. So potentially more damage still for Lurox, or is this a retirement from the race? Looking at the fact that the car's not being serviced, I think he might be calling it a race. Which is a big shame, not least for the RoboSport Racing supporters, but also for Lurox. It's not been ideal to this point. Of course, both of the It's Racing Esports Hondas are right at the back of the order as well. Some minor damage for It's Racing, but he seems to be pressing on despite it, I think, not wanting to serve the huge length of pit stop that we have in the Gran Turismo Sport community now. Realistically, they are, well, realistic pit stops, but of course that does mean you have to consider whether you make a pit stop a lot more than you otherwise would. Speaking of wood, Diswood is under a lot of pressure from Punts. The gap has receded significantly between the Honda and the Lexus. They have to be exceedingly careful in these conditions. It's so hard to really push and try and catch someone without pushing it slightly beyond the limits of adhesion, the limits of your tyres' grip. Punt seems to be doing a good job at the moment. He's keeping that car under firm control. And Diswood getting all kinds of shaky, rattling and rolling out of that sweeping little right-hander. Towards the final corner once again. We're at half distance in the race now. Diswood has led from the beginning. But again, it's not being made easy for him. Wood, Kuntz, Blacko and Spud are top four. Spud holding on to the top three then. He's just ahead of Brandosa, who bested him to 5th place in the previous race. Spud will be eager here to put in a better showing. Wants to protect that number one plate as best he can. Oh, look at Diswood's Honda. Oh, but the Lexus pulling just as many shapes. We talk about how the mid-engine cars can be a bit trickier, and that is true. However, with 750 horsepower residing on the other side of the throttle pedal, all of these cars are incredibly treacherous in any condition, much less this wet weather. According to the screen, Punts is running without traction control as well. See if Diswood is doing the same. Yes, indeed. So the front runners are abstaining from the traction control system, which is great to see these drivers so confident in their own abilities and so able to keep the car pointed in the right direction in spite of these treacherous conditions over Styria today. Diswood, however, very sideways, struggling for traction, and there goes Blacko with a bit of a moment. It's side by side for the lead. It's Punts up the inside in the 47 car. And he's got a nose ahead. Who's going to be later on the brakes? I think Diswood. They're still side by side. They've given each other room. Oh, and the better traction from the Honda allows Diswood to retain the lead. That was heart-in-the-mouth stuff from Puntz. What great driving from the pair of them there to keep it out of each other's way. It could have so easily ended in tears, that particular moment. But thankfully, both of them managed to keep it on, not quite the straight and narrow, mind you, but managed to stay out of each other's way. So top four, still very close together, just starting to fan out a little bit. Wood, Puntz, Blacko and Spud. All three manufacturers represented in the top three, of course, with Honda from Lexus, from Nissan, and Spud getting all sorts of twitchy at the back of shot there in the second of the Mashed Spuds racing entries. And if N-Spud isn't careful, I think his Mashed Spuds are going to look more like potato puree. He's been really testing the upper remits of his own car control all throughout this race. Let's take a look a little further back to Brandosa. Running in fifth, just ahead of Huso now. So Huso's dropped out of the top five in the CP Motorsports NSX. Xiaomi there in seventh, ahead of Jaxi, who's doing great in the pit lane esports car. He had a bit of a difficult first race, but in race two, he's well up the order in P8. Of course, part of that owing to some dramas for some of the front runners. It's racing. Just closing in on Slapper's mate. It's racing with two difficult races thus far here at Styria. Lost a lot of time somewhere on that first lap off camera. And he's losing more time on lap 9 as well. Oh, and he's into the barriers hard with some damage. The curse of being on camera strikes. It's racing. We'll see whether or not he goes back into the pits. I think he'll try and keep the car out of the pit lane, if only to stop himself from having to be in the pits for that length of time that we now have. That's why the likes of Deadpool so far back. Lurox 22, meanwhile, is back on track, so he's doing a couple of laps to maybe try and get his eye in before race 3. Back to the lead, and Puntz is pressuring once again. Got a very good run up the hill. Oh, but he's wide around the penultimate corner. Lost all of that time. He's lost over a second there, just running it wide around the penultimate turn. A lot of these corners here at the Red Bull Ring look nondescript, but their challenges are not to be underestimated. The rint curve it was that challenged Puntz's grip. And now he's got to worry about Little Blacko behind him. Little Blacko is now closer to Puntz than Puntz is to the lead. N-Spud still right there as well. I don't think he's going to be close enough to challenge for a podium spot before the end of this race. We are on the penultimate lap. Look at that twitching car, the Ultipack backed Mashed Spuds Racing entry. Blacko in the 14 car. Running solidly at this stage. Bunts there. So sideways through that corner. We see so much of that there. Such a tricky place to get the traction. Certainly a race of two halves. Realistically, outside the top six, just about every other driver has had a significant drama of some sort. But even these front runners have had their heart in mouth moments. Nature of these wet conditions. To Remus for the final time. Diswood, tricky as ever to get the power down. Following on from the second braking zone of the lap, technically the third corner of the lap, although I still dispute turn two's existence, the little kink along the second straight. The Honda of Diswood goes past the giant bull statue for the final time in this second race of 3 for the day. There's 2 corners between him and a second victory. Simply sideways for Diswood. But no matter how sideways he's been, he's kept the lead and he's taken the win. Lights to flag for Diswood. Punts takes a very good second place ahead of Blacko and Spud. Grandosa across the line in 5th place ahead of Huso in 6th. And then we have to go back quite a long way to Jaxie for Pit Lane Esports, who looks to be really getting the hang of these wet conditions. He was over a lap down in that first race, but he's just gone below a 140. Again, a 39.428 for Jaxie on that penultimate lap, and he claims 7th place ahead of Dan 08. Slapper's mate just running a bit wide, but he's going to be happy to take 9th place as well. Both of the Pit Lane Esports drivers improving in this second race. Chiami all the way down in 10th place, so he had his fair share of moments by the looks of it. Deadpool crossing the line for P11. Just burning a penalty on his way there, and throws it into the barrier for good measure, as if there weren't already enough bent parts on that It's Racing Esports NSX. This one isn't exactly factory fresh either. It's Racing crossing line 12, our championship leader heading into this race. He's not going to be happy with how the weekend has gone thus far in Styria. 13th place for Chef Todd, and Lurox, of course, finishing 6 laps down, having stopped for a sandwich during the race after a number of issues. Diswood takes the second race win of the day. Then we have one more 12-lap encounter here in Styria. The Red Bull Ring hosting the Trackstars Touring Cars Styrian Sprint. We've had 2 spectacular races in the wet so far. What can we expect from race 3? A little bit of discourse between some of the drivers regarding incidents. Meanwhile, Chef Todd wants to make the most of any inch of track time he can get in the number 12. Blame the New Zealander for that, and he has been steadily improving as well. This is this man Jaxie, the 11 car. Wetsuit flippers, says Diswood. Certainly sounds like a strategy. Xiaomi says he'd like to report the weather, man or woman, please. Maybe he didn't watch the right channel. There's Diswood, 2 times a race winner this evening. Can he make it 3 from 3 on a triumphant return? That would be for Diswood to the main series if he can take 3 wins. Surely the CP Motorsports gang would have to consider trying to sign him on as a full-time driver, and if they don't, surely someone would. Oh, Diswood taking the old loop there. Going on his own little adventures. Nice to see so many supporters of the Track Stars series, not just touring cars, but our other events. Joining us in the stream, Papa AT, Shane Kenty. Great to see you guys with us here for this evening's festivities. Little Blacko getting his eye in. Would like to try and replicate his success from the TS2 category, I think. The final has been started. Will it be this man, Diswood, with a 3rd consecutive win? So we're ready to go racing once again. Diswood and Punts at the front. Who's going to get the best start? Wood has been a fast starter so far today. Lights out and away we go then, and Diswood yet again gets the traction down better than anyone else in the Honda. Everyone keeping it on the straight and narrow into the Niki Lauda curve for the first time. Little bit of contact, but nothing to be overly concerned with as the GTR safety car follows the rest of the pack. Lurox 22 will be working from the tail end, as will Deadpool and It's Racing. Oh, Chef Toad there into the gravel. And Huzo spins in the CP Motorsports Honda. So a couple of dramas in the early going. Huzo into the wall with some damage. We'll see whether he elects to repair that or whether he decides the pit stop is simply too costly. Diswood then leads the way. Wood snaking. Punts, Blacko, Brandosa, who's made it up to 4th place, and then Spud in 5th. So Brandosa's had a good start there in the Elite Brake and Mechanical EBM GTR. It's Racing and Deadpool have had a great first lap. The two It's Racing Esports Hondas have scythed up through the order, picked up places while others have struggled. AT saying that Diswood may put him out of a seat. Well, it's 2 wins from 2 so far for Diswood. Can he make it a 3rd? See, the Honda's looking strong this year. Overtaking is prohibited, and why? It's because Diswood has had a spin. Well, Papa AT was sweating his seat. Unfortunately, Diswood may now be sweating in that seat as well. We were talking about whether or not it would be 3 wins from 3. He's now got front end damage. So it looks less likely than it did before. And he's had another moment there. He's all crossed up. He did very well to keep that in a straight line, to be fair to him. Does he come into pit lane to fix his damage? He does. He's decided he wants the car to be in one piece, even at the expense of this lengthy pit stop, and that's going to put him well out of contention. And that mistake has put Punts to the head of the field for Mash Spuds Racing. The Lexus cars have not looked as strong as they did last year. Can Punts take a win in the 3rd race of the Styrian Sprint here at the Red Bull Ring? It's a Lexus followed by 2 Nissans, followed by another Lexus. Blacko and Brandosa for Robo Sports Racing and EBM respectively. Oh, Blacko there just struggling with the power. Of course, little Blacko also a reserve here today, replacing regular Trackstars Touring Cars driver Farrell PS for this evening's festivities. Blacko has taken 5 wins on the trot in the TS2 category. He's been well in the running here today in the Trackstars Touring Cars. Still proving himself to be an excellent driver, but He really, really came close to the wall there. I need to stop complimenting these drivers by the looks of it. Oh, Little Blacko again struggling to get the power down. That allows Brandosa through into P2. 34 car. Into second place. The best run of the season comfortably for Brandosa thus far. Spud looking to the inside for third place. Little Blacko runs it wide. Has to avoid the yellow sausage curb. Spud has got through and It's Racing is right there as well, leading his teammate Deadpool up the order. Quite the charge this is for the Honda drivers. Spud through into third place, surely this time. Not quite. Oh, and It's Racing struggling to put the power down in the Honda. We've seen just how good Deadpool is here today. Is he going to get past his teammate now and continue to work his way up the order? At the moment, this is as good as it's gotten for It's Racing Esports. Both of their cars in the top 6. I don't think that's been the case since they lined up on the grid at the end of qualifying. Wunz, with a 3.4 second lead, is currently firmly in control of the race here. Good to see that Wunz is having a better weekend here in Styria. Region of Austria currently looking like a happier hunting ground than Croatia did for Wunz and the entire Masha Spud's organisation, it must be said, because Spud is there in third as well. Blacko fourth, Deadpool now into fifth place, so It's Racing has seemingly released him. Durox 22 in P7 ahead of Dan 08. Slapper's mate in ninth place, the first of the pit lane esports cars at the moment. And we can see there that Xiaomi is sandwiched between the two pit lane esports cars at this stage. You can see Jaxi there pressuring Xiaomi. Looks all the way around the outside. That's the go-karting line. And a bit of four-wheel drifting there from Xiaomi. Oh, but both of them struggling for traction. Be careful on those painted rumble strips there, Jaxi. We get a better run off the corner and takes 10th place. So Jaxi into the top 10, Xiaomi down to 11th place. Those are really the last of the drivers who haven't had dramas yet. Chef Todd and Diswood 12th and 13th. CP Motorsports unfortunately currently running at the very back of the order. So Spud running there in third place. Considerable amounts of pressure from Little Blacko and Deadpool. It's Racing is just a few car lengths further back from that little pack now. A tri-branded battle for third place. The Lexus of Spud, the Nissan, of course, in those retro factory colours. Robo Sports Racing, Little Blacko, and then Deadpool in fifth. We're at half distance then, as EBM Brandosa there has to serve a penalty. And does that allow Spud into second place? It does. Spud moves into P2. There are specific areas of this circuit in which to serve your penalty. Brandosa had to do it there on the main straight, and that has cost him dearly. Deadpool, meanwhile, has just briefly got into fourth place, but Little Blacko later on the brakes makes the move back into the position. In fact, he gets past Spud as well. Spud struggling for traction out of the corner, and he's lost 2 places as a result. 3 places, in fact, because Brandosa's got past him as well, of course. Spud's gone from 2nd to 5th in just 2 corners. Brandosa back into 2nd place then, in spite of that penalty he had to serve. For Spud under pressure. He's got back into 4th then. So Deadpool has had to let him back through. Constantly changing on this lap. It's been rather disruptive. But at the end of it, Brandosa is in 2nd still from Little Blacko. Spud and Deadpool side by side. Deadpool just holds on to 4th, or just takes 4th back, I should say. And he usually gets a good run out of the first turn. He does so again there. So Spud back out of the podium contention for the time being. Oh, but dives up the inside at Remus. Takes 4th place back. It's proper to and fro stuff between Deadpool and Spud. There goes Deadpool again. Better traction in the Honda. Moves back into 4th place. Order doesn't even remain the same for more than a corner. Oh, look at Spud sideways yet again through that sweeping right. It's racing, keeping him company. Spud runs a bit wide there, has to worry about It's Racing, has to worry about keeping the car on the track as well. The rear tried to swap ends. He's now got to serve a penalty. And that drops him to 6th place. Wow, okay. 2 It's Racing Hondas in the top 5 then. But what about this man Punts? Setting the fastest pace of anyone out there on circuit, a 36.769. He's the better part of 6 seconds clear of Brandosa. This would be the first win of the season for Mashed Spuds. 47 of Punts. Be fairly high up the driver's standings as well after this. He's been consistently up the front of the order. And with the dramas here in the wet today at the Red Bull Ring, that can't be said for too many people anymore. Everyone, more or less, has had a dud race at some point. Blacko has, of course, kept it fairly consistent, and so has Brandosa, so both of them do well, although of course Blacko is a reserve driver. Deadpool in the 4th spot is who's just we'll get there eventually. Improving on his pace was the word I was looking for. 37.0 last time by. He wants that podium. Quite the recovery drive, having found himself facing the wrong way at the end of race 2. Started right at the back of the order for race 3. Both of the It's Racing Hondas carved their way through the order nicely in the first lap of this final race of the day. Wider line for Deadpool. Looks like he gets the power on a little smoother in the Honda. Constantly fighting these cars in these conditions. Upwards of 750 brake horsepower for all of these cars. Highly turbocharged 4-cylinder motors, of course. They're very tricky in these conditions. It's and Spud, of course, that's our commentary team for the TS2 series. They're running 5th and 6th at the moment. And Spud wants his place back after that penalty he had to serve a couple of laps ago. I thought maybe Spud had missed his braking point there, but he just about got there to the apex. Spud not quite close enough at the moment to challenge it into any of these braking zones. He may have just tapped the back of the Honda there, and the Honda's gone for a spin. Oh no, It's Racing. The late error. He should just about hold on to 6th. Ahead of Lurox 22. That's a significant blow. I think he did get a slight tap there from Spud on corner entry. But that wouldn't have sent him into that moment at corner exit. Lurox, meanwhile, just brushes the gravel there by the looks of it. Spud now lonely in 5th spot then. Top 4 have all spread significantly, of course, with Punts having long since checked out and moved postcodes. Let's take one last look further back in the order as we go on to this final lap. Slapper's mate in 9th and Jaxie still in 10th. Diswood on the recovery drive in 11th. Huzo, Chiami, and Chef Toddy rounding out the 14-car order. Looks like everyone may just stay on the lead lap this time. It's been an exemplary drive from Punts. He's been a little more conservative in these last laps. He's let the gap shrink a little bit. Whoa, still pushing though, clearly. You'd say a win has been overdue for the mashed Spuds. But it looks as though they're finally going to get one on the board. Punts heads towards the penultimate turn for the final time. The Rint curve. Rounding the final corner. Out of the last turn with a little bit of a twitch. Oh, quite a big twitch, but he takes the win nonetheless. It is victory for Punts. EBM Brandosa takes 2nd. Little Blacko just holds on to 3rd place despite the best efforts of Deadpool in 4th with a late penalty. Spud takes what eventually is quite a lonely 5th place. Recovering its racing. Lights up the rears one last time on his way to 6th place. Still a good recovery from where he started. And Lurox 22 also carved up the order some way to get to 7th from the very back of the grid. Dan 08 takes 8th spot. And then it's a Pit Lane Esports photo finish. Slapper's Mate and Jaxie crossing the line together in 9th and 10th. P11 for Diswood. We speculated that he could take the clean sweep of victories, but unfortunately 11th place was all he could muster in the final race after gaining damage in the incident early in the race. CP Motorsports with a disappointing second race in general. Huzo crossing the line in 12th place. Xiaomi for EBM crossing the line in 13th. Mixed fortunes today for the Elite Brake and Mechanical team. Of course, a great result for Brandosa to be in second, but Xiaomi won't be best pleased with 13th. Chef Toddy, meanwhile, in car number 12, rounds out the order. A little bit of a snake, nonetheless, crosses the line to complete the race. And it is victory then for Punts. The Mashed Spuds Racing Lexus outfit taking the flag. The first time this season. Great stuff from Punts. Look at those race results one more time. Punts and Brandosa will both be delighted with their results there. Little Blacko, I think, will be satisfied with his super sub performance there for Farrell PS to take 3rd place, to stay right within the realms of podium contention in every race. Deadpool taking 4th from the back of the grid, ahead of Spud and It's Racing. So both of the It's Racing Esports NSXs in the top 6. I'm fairly sure It's and Co will be delighted with that. Lurox 22 and Dan 08 rounding out the top 8. Slapper's Mate and Jaxie, the two Pit Lane Esports drivers, in 9th and 10th. Diswood taking 11th, despite his off in the early going. Huzo behind him. The CP Motorsports NSXs further down than we were expecting based on their early results. Xiaomi and Chef Todd rounding out the order. Robosport, of course, not being used as much this weekend. The Red Bull Ring, in spite of wet weather, not requiring a safety car in any of the 3 races. Room already emptying. We'll see these drivers again soon. I believe next race is Fuji Speedway in a couple of weeks. But for now, from the Trackstars Touring Cars competitors and from myself, Adam Weller, it's a good evening. We hope you all sleep well over in Australia. If you're on this side of the pond, we hope that you have a great Sunday. Thank you for joining us, making Trackstars Touring Cars part of your routine for the day. And we'll see you again very soon for more racing action.